If
Right.
you get yourself stuck in a situation, which I've done, it was a lesson learned where my audience was pushing me in a different direction. It is just too conflicting.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you can continue to do without getting burnt out.
Hmm.
You have to have that freedom to show up as yourself. You see people show up like in their pajamas on videos, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And people love it because that's their audience. But for someone that is doing business, that's probably not the best way to show up. So
Yeah.
you do have to have a balance of the two. You have to stay authentic to your own voice, though, no matter what you do. And if it's not, you will eventually have to evolve into that so that you're continuing to be able to show up.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Lab Central. Today I am joined with Jessica. So Jessica, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation?
I think that it is exciting because in today's world, we don't have a lot of marketing options and social media options, or too many social media options, rather. And it's just really important to identify which ones are important for you and how to really like harness the abilities and expand your reach.
Uh-huh. So since we're directly on the topic of social media and expanding reach, what's your favorite platform and which one do you want to start with? Because as you mentioned, we have a lot of choices, right? Going out there.
Right? I think that that's a really good point because it really depends on your business.
Mhm.
So, to be completely transparent, for years, I have had social media and really wasn't paying attention to it. And I have three different businesses. And so I wasn't paying attention to it because I was growing completely on referral and a lot of my public speaking. And so I didn't need it. The funny thing is even that has caught up to me. And now I'm like, oh, in order to grow to that next level of scaling I want to do, I have to lean into social media.
Yeah.
But it's really identifying how you show up, right? So you might, in some cases, you might show up really well in writing. Some people do really good with like graphics and static things. Some people do really well with video. So it's identifying first where you show up best and how you are doing that and the
Hmm.
type of content you're going to create. Because if you are someone that's really good on video or likes video, it's going to be painful for you to be writing all of these static posts and typing all this copy,
Yeah.
or it could be flipped, right? And you could be doing really good on copy and not on video. So first you have to identify that. Then the second piece is, where's my audience?
Uh-huh.
And so is my audience on TikTok, on YouTube? So you have to be video. Is my audience on LinkedIn, where it's really about like research articles and being able to have some really solid information you're sharing out? Is it still on Meta and Twitter and these types of things? And like
Yeah.
once you identify those two pieces of how do you best show up
Hmm.
and then where do you need to show up, those marry together. And so for me, to answer your question very roundabout way, um, there's different businesses I approach differently. So when I'm targeting my business people, I know that I show up best on video. Like I write and it's just I when I write, I have no problem writing. I write a lot. I have several books, but it doesn't always project the exact voice I want and the amount of energy I bring. And so I do show up best on video. Because of that, when I look at LinkedIn, yes, I can put videos on there, which do
Yeah.
all right with reels, but that target audience is research driven, data driven.
Yeah.
And so I have to write a whole blog and I have my emails and text messages that go out after, but everything is funneling everyone back to my video because that's how I show up.
Hmm.
Hopefully that makes sense on how that particular platform works for me. The other platforms are mainly video driven, and
Right.
we point them either back to our YouTube or to one of our websites that has the videos. And so that's kind of a way of going about it, regardless of like what's right for you. But my consumer markets, are usually video based, and those are typically done through social media on not so much Meta. We still have a presence there, but that's not those people that have been around for like, 5+ years.
Yeah.
A lot of it is on TikTok and YouTube.
Mhm. Now, I just want to understand, right? For people who are starting out, right? I've seen a lot of, I mean, not just friends, but I've seen new creators who are good, like you mentioned, right? Finding what you're good at, okay? Be it copies or static images or videos, right? But I've just seen quite a few new content creators trying to come up with quality content, but the algorithm or for some odd reason that piece of content does not click with the social media platform, and after a few iterations some other random post that they even did not intend to put out but they just put out clicks, and that's the one that goes viral. So what where do people go wrong?
I don't know if it's where do you go wrong
Yeah.
as much as it is like timing of things.
Uh-huh.
There are businesses that I've had for a very, very long time,
Mhm.
and they have had ups and downs
Yeah.
of being able to, of popularity.
Right.
So I think it's a matter of creating a framework and sticking to your authentic voice for your brand and yourself,
Okay.
and it will pop off. Now, obviously, there's a lot of tools involved. Like if you're on YouTube, you can use TubeBuddy. We are heavy, heavy users of AI. And so we use a specific AI platform that I can give you a link for,
Mhm.
but it's not ChatGPT, because that's regurgitated information. But we use another AI platform, and a lot of social media posting and platforms have it built in where it will tell you, hey, here's your hashtags, here's a better title, here's a reel that's good for you. And so there's a lot of different ways of using AI to be able to fix that gap. But optimizing everything you do is what's critical. So our framework is I will record the video for that week, and then I kick it off to my team. Their job then is to take that video, download the script, create from the script, they will create my blogs, they will create all the static posts, they will create the graphics,
Mhm.
because in our software it'll say like, here's the blog, it will actually build all of it for you. Here's the blog, here's the hashtags, the titles,
Right.
here's the image suggestions we have,
Mhm.
all those things, including like our CTAs, our call to actions, sorry. And so when we're going through, it creates all the content they need for all the platforms for that week in just a couple clicks, because it already has my persona plugged in, my for me and the customer. It's got their brand voice, everything plugged into it with our CTAs. And so it just creates for us.
Right.
What they do is they take all those pieces, and then they go into each of those things, like I was suggested TubeBuddy, and TubeBuddy will say, great, got it. But now here's a better title. Here's the trending hashtags.
Yeah.
Your next video should be on this subject. And so it's really about harnessing the technology that's out there and getting into a framework that works for you, where your content is unique, but you have all this information that just really polishes it so that you are getting those trending posts. When we started using, and TubeBuddy's just something that, most content right now is video created. So TubeBuddy is kind of my go-to for our talk. But it the beauty of that is it's doing a lot of the work we used to have to do on our own for optimizing our each channel. So since we started using it, we started seeing double our growth in all of our social media that we're using them with.
Okay. Now, but then just to understand, right, when you're doing this optimization, okay, say before you were using this tool called TubeBuddy, did you optimize for content, I mean, quantity, clicks, or something of that sort? Or, I mean, were you optimizing for the audience or what? were you optimizing for what you wanted to say or something of that sort, like quality?
Oh, that's such a good point.
Right.
I I think that gets lost a lot.
Yeah.
Um, when you are creating content, it's about having the right voice for your audience because your business itself should be that's why I have three of them,
Okay.
right? Because they're all three a different target audience.
Mhm.
And because of that, I might make one video that hits all of them,
Uh-huh.
and I might make three separate videos.
Right.
Typically, I make three separate videos because my authentic self shows up different for each one. So it
Right.
is about connecting those two pieces. So when you are, for example, if I am talking about business, this is how I show up, right? But if I'm talking about spirituality, which is one of my businesses, I'm going to show up very different. And my subjects are going to be different and they're going to be very authentic to not only the audience, but to how I speak. If
Right.
you get yourself stuck in a situation, which I've done, it was a lesson learned where my audience was pushing me in a different direction. It is just too conflicting.
Right.
And it's not something that you can continue to do without getting burnt out.
Mhm.
You have to have that freedom to show up as yourself. You see people show up like in their pajamas on videos, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And people love it because that's their audience. But for someone that is doing business, that's probably not the best way to show up. So
Yeah.
you do have to have a balance of the two. You have to stay authentic to your own voice though, no matter what you do. And if it's not, you will eventually have to evolve into that so that you're continuing to be able to show up. And people know. They know if you're faking it, even if you have an audience that's really buying your Kool-Aid. Um, it might not align with you. And that did happen to us at one point with our business. Our audience just didn't align. And I had to finally come on and say, listen, I hear you, but that is not what I'm about. Like this brand is kindness. I am about kindness and sharing information. If you believe that, we are not the right place for you. And I only lost 5 followers. But it stopped that noise of people trying to get me to do something I didn't want to do.
Yeah, because when it comes to businesses, right, being true to your own brand voice and to your own beliefs is very important, right? To continuously
Hmm.
provide the same value that you intend to bring to the world, it becomes very crucial. And from that standpoint, even I don't know, from the value standpoint, strategy standpoint, everything makes sense. But it's just that how social media is there. You have so many people barging in if you're getting good engagement. If you're not, then it's not a problem altogether because there's nobody responding to whatever you say. But then again, if you have good engagement on your posts, there will always be noise. And how have you been handling noise? So let's get to that probably.
Yeah, I ignore it. So it's this if you feed into the noise,
Uh-huh.
um, and often, like you're saying, there are people who have very strong opinions about things. And so you can be in a situation where people are being negative.
Mhm.
And if you feed into that, you are putting energy into it and it will continue to grow. So
Yeah.
if you are getting things that you don't want,
Mhm.
you ignore them or delete them. I had someone trolling my YouTube, one of my channels for a while, and it was very frustrating. So all the comments were trying to get people to go to this other, which I don't mind, right? If it's adding value to my audience, I will leave it, even if it's clicking out somewhere else. I'm not about being like, oh, it's my platform or my audience. You can't, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, it was sending them to something that was like really horrific.
Mhm.
And I was like, whoa, that is not, I don't want that attached to my brand. I don't want my poor audience to have to click on that and see it. So in that case, we went through and deleted those comments and those posts and would block them when they would come through. So you have to stay on top of it and look at what's happening. Now, sometimes you need to look at the noise because it's telling you something, right? It's telling you a story of where your audience is going, and maybe you need to go there, but maybe you make the choice to not go there
Mhm.
because your brand isn't ready to, or it's counterproductive of what you're trying to, like the audience you're trying to help, because your audience will also outgrow you.
Yeah,
And so they might go on to their next stage and their next journey, but that does not mean that you need to.
yeah,
And so you really have to have discernment when you're looking at all of that noise. I will be honest, because of three companies, my team does that. I don't do that anymore. I go and on the weekends, I'll kind of look at what's been going on and, have some thoughts on it. And, should we be looking at this? Or, oh my gosh, this person actually, if you stalk them on social, they're not telling the right story. We need to do something about this. But for the most part, my team takes care of it and they all know, like, okay, I'm this voice in this brand. So this is what we need to make sure we have discernment over protecting our audience.
yeah.
It also protects you from getting derailed into areas you don't need to go into.
Yeah. From a business perspective, yeah, that is actually very important, right? Because you don't want to get into a new product line, a new service line, and just go there just because a couple of people wanted it, but you won't create any value because even though you try, it will not create value for the customer or even for yourself, right? So that kind of thing. Um, so from a business, let's talk about your businesses. What are you exactly doing? I figured you are doing something with spirituality. You do some public speaking, coaching, I guess. So, what kind
All
of business
kinds.
are you
Yeah. So we have the three businesses with that in that construct. There's one designed that is my whole, they're all have the foundation of breaking free from societal constraints. That is my mission.
doing? Okay.
But what I found over the years is that was true in a broad case. And
Right.
so eventually we ended up in these three businesses. So with one of them, it is about the challenges of society, and that's the Freedom Mystic brand. And inside Freedom Mystic, it is, do you know how to adult? Because most people don't. It's not taught anymore. Not in schools, it's not taught at home, and
Yeah.
people get out there in the world and I get the strangest questions like, what is a lease? Am I buying this apartment? And I'm like, no, no, here's the things you need to know about a lease. Or I want to invest money, but I don't know where to begin. And a lot of my followers know I used to be a financial advisor. So I'm like, this is what you need to do. It's all about those adulting things with relationships, with career, with finance, with just being a good adult. And on top of it, we also have some other things that are unique in the fact that there'll be the, sorry about that. I don't know if you can
It's okay.
hear, but I'm on a farm and one of my dogs just heard something.
It's okay.
So
It's okay. I mean, you could
hopefully,
unblur the background. I don't know if the audience would like to meet your dog. I'm not sure.
right, right. She's already taken off. So she's headed to the fields. Um, but the other brand inside Freedom Mystic or other program really is about chronic illness. And again, that is about the burnout of society. Oftentimes we see people talk about burnout in the business world, but really there is a society burnout. And that
Mhm.
is just like you're talking about the noise, and it very much focuses on chronic illness. So, for example, right now, I have multiple chronic illnesses myself, and it's something that is more and more common in society. And so it's addressing the nervous system and those specific needs of like fibromyalgia. And so there's that piece there. And it's about like, again, you're going to break down your neurological system and look at the societal constraints you're living within and recreate a new life that isn't in that box so that you can
Yeah.
still be an asset to society and live your life. So
Uh-huh.
that's what Freedom Mystic does. And then in Finding Bliss, that is about enlightenment. and with no construct of a belief system. It's about the science of consciousness, and it's creating a journey of your own spiritual practices. Finding that myself, I have practiced anything from Christian, Hindu, pagan, and been a part of all of those throughout my life.
Okay.
And as I started expressing these things to people, they wanted to learn these spiritual practices too, so that they could develop their intuition, become psychic, become enlightened. And so there's a journey that people go through with us to teach all of those things so that, again, you're not stuck in the box of society. You create your own belief system and life and lifestyle around what aligns with your core. And then the third one is Bliss Out Mentor. And Bliss Out Mentor is all about corporate business, all those things. And
Yeah.
so we have areas where we're helping corporations, and bringing a lot of our teachings and knowings in there from decision. It's mainly when it comes to corporate, it's mainly focused on executives, just from my history of being in that industry.
Right.
And so, or that area of my career. And so in that, we talk about burnout, we talk about culture and things like that, and how to design corporations and help them with frameworks and strategies. But we also have a whole nother program where I believe more and more people either have side hustles or are launching their own businesses due to the world and the society we live in nowadays. And so we have Ready to Launch, which actually addresses a lot of the questions you've already brought up. In Ready to Launch, we go through like really what are your core values and beliefs? How do those align with your business? Now let's identify your authentic voice. Now
Right.
from there, let's go find your audience. Where's your audience at in this whole makeup, and being able to design around that? And then the social media frameworks and all of these different automations, all these
Yeah.
pieces is in the Ready to Launch program. So that by the time we're done with the 10 weeks, you have 12 months automated. And now all you have to do is focus on what you're doing.
No, that's
It's
a
a lot, but I love it.
that's the whole point. I mean, sometimes I don't know, our brains work in different ways, and sometimes you just enjoy doing different things. But then, if your core value is clear, right? That yeah, you're here to bring clarity to the others and in different forms. It becomes easier, right? Because you understand what you're trying to do, although it could be different for different people. I would love to deep dive into all three of them for some odd reason: adulting, enlightenment, business, everything we could go through one by one. But yeah, we constrained with time. I don't know. So let's just talk about adulting, right? The audience, quite a few of them would be going through issues or something of that sort. Now, when you go out on social media or do public speaking programs, I don't know if you do public speaking about adulting, but at least when you go out on
Yes.
social media, okay, just on that part, since you were about to say something, do you actually get a lot of offline engagement when you go for a program which says that, yeah, we're going to be talking about adulting, and people actually turn up? Do they turn up for something like that? Or rather just on social media,
Mm.
it's a little more easier, right? For somebody to, okay, yeah, this is something that I relate to. I want to comment, and yeah, I want to engage with this type of content. But to be able to go somewhere and turn up just to learn about adulting, how are these two different? How is the response of the audience different on these two platforms?
It, it's very different.
Yeah.
It's it, when you are doing an event or a speaking engagement, and that's really for us, that's our sweet spot, right? Like if I show up at a school
Mhm.
or an association or something, and I'm speaking, or at a corporation, the audience is there because they really want to hear it. They came for that. And there's usually other things built around it.
Yeah.
And when, as far as like my individual, like you're bringing a lot more energy.
Yeah.
But I'm there in person. So there's an energy exchange. The vibration changes. The connection is so much stronger.
Yeah.
Offline, I have a lot of engagement offline.
Uh,
And it's very intimate relationships because I've met you, I've shook your hand, I've heard your story,
right.
and it's just a totally different experience. And so a lot of times we'll go and I will have workbooks, I will have like things that they're physically taking away with them. I'm
Yeah.
walking them through the steps live, doing
Yeah.
these things. And then I'm saying, hey, do you want to? It's the same as when social media, where you do a video, but it's a small clip. So in a video, I might only have like a minute, 5 minutes. And in that short amount of time, I'm trying to like say, hey, come over here and look at what else I have.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm at an event, they feed off of each other and my own energy.
Yeah.
And when I say, like, hey, I took you through this framework and
Yeah.
this strategy and
Mhm.
gave you some tools to do it yourself, but why don't you come over here and let's do it together? And they're like, yes, let's do that. And so my conversion rate when I do speaking events is so much higher
Uh,
than when I do social media. Now, some of this is because I'm not competing. There's no additional noise.
right.
When you go and speak, it's curated, specific, so that each speaker is bringing something different so that they're feeding their audience. So when you have a community like that, it is creating this experience where it is, I am the sole person talking about that. They are excited and very focused and passionate about that subject. And so when I'm saying, hey, let's also go do this, their engagement is very high and the conversion rate is really high. And so almost every time I do that, I'm getting, I guess it depends on the business because they all convert differently. But when I do a post right now, because we're just now leaning into our social media,
Mhm.
um, I'm going from, a comparison of almost like 70 to 80% higher conversion compared to my social posts.
Right. Okay. That is significantly higher. I mean, but then the investment on that is also higher, right? You go out, you physically invested in the whole process, you're mentally invested, you're financially invested, and things like that. I mean, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
um
Well, you're usually paid to speak, or
okay,
there's some type of an exchange.
okay.
So when you go speaking, there's different avenues. One, you have an avenue where, you know, it's like they're asking you to come and maybe their budget is really low, so they can't afford your normal fees. So you work out some type of an exchange.
Yeah,
Everything is negotiable,
yeah.
right? Like, oh, well, instead of paying me, how about you buy my book around this subject for all of your audience? And you allow me to say at the end, why don't you join my program? That's one way. Another speaking that we do often, especially in corporations, is there's no conversion. They are paying me a nice ticket item or
Uh-huh.
amount to come in and speak specific, no conversion. I don't get access to them. It's taboo because I'm speaking on another behalf. And I do that a lot, especially when it comes to business. And it's like for workshops, for keynote
Uh,
speaking, things like that, where they don't get all of that extra with it, but I'm coming and getting paid to share my knowledge.
yeah.
And so it's different avenues of how to do it. And so even if I'm going there as a keynote and not being allowed to promote my own business,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter because they fall in love with you and they start stalking you online. And
Yeah.
then they end up converting anyways. So you have to have both that strong online, strong social media, and a good talk. And the good talk is a whole nother subject.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I've done it sometimes, a couple of times, not like a pro business speaker, but yeah, I've been on stage. I understand how difficult it is to get to an audience's mind and have them thinking about your product after you finish speaking. And that's the whole mind game, right? Having them thinking about you even after you're finished, and probably several hours after you're finished. And that's where the whole conversion lies. So yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I know where we started, where we are right now. We started oh yeah, we started on social media, back on social media, but we also discussed your businesses in between. Lovely conversation that we had. Before we close, where can people get in touch with you about, I don't know, what else are you doing these days?
Well, the easiest way to connect is going to blissoutholdings.com because that will give you a link to all the businesses.
Mhm.
There's so many social media accounts and options. And since we ended up talking about all of them, it just makes sense to do that. If you're interested in joining one of our cohort programs, right, like the Adulting 101, that would be freedommystic.com. If it's for business, it would be blissoutmentor.com. If it's for the spiritual development, you can go to findingbliss.com. And so all of them have different places, but just go to Bliss Out Holdings and then you can link to all of them and
Yeah.
stalk away.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for joining in on this episode of Your Lab Central. To the audience who've been listening and watching, if you liked our conversation, do leave a like. The comment section is open for leaving a comment, adding perspective, adding to the conversation, and whatnot. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. So, Jessica, thank you so much for joining, and thank you to the audience as well.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.